So hello everyone, welcome to BLJ coding classes. I am Aman Vora, your mentor and a passionate computer engineer and a data scientist. Whether you're a beginner or an enthusiast, this channel is your gateway to mastering the art of data science. Join me on this exciting journey as I guide you through the essentials, helping you become a proficient data scientist from scratch. So let's dive into the world of data science together. So like any other programming language, today we are going to start with the basics of Python in order to understand what Python is all about so that we can master data analysis and data visualization further on. So what exactly are variables in Python? So what exactly is a variable? Variable are nothing but containers for our data values. Whenever we create a variable, it helps us to store some space in memory, and these memory location in itself are then used to store our values. So let's say we have a variable a and we assign a value 5 to it. So this letter a is not just a letter now, it is a variable now. The variable in itself means that its value is not constant, it is dynamic in nature. It can be varied if you want to. So the value that we have just assigned to a, that is 5, let's say we want to print that value. So let's say we want to print that value. So in order to print that value, apart from other languages like C++ or Java, where we have complex codes in order to print something on the screen, Python is relatively simple compared to that. We just need to type the variable name and tada, it will help us to print whatever value that is assigned to that variable. So let's say I want to print that variable a. I will just simply press shift plus enter and that variable a will be entered. I'm sorry, I forgot to tada. So first of all, we need to run the cell that is a is equal to 5, and value 5 will be assigned to a, and after that whenever we want to print that variable, we just simply type the variable name and the value will be printed. So if you have a tendency in order to use the word or the keyword print, there is also another method that we can use in order to print our variables in Python. That is the traditional method of using the keyword print. So we will type print and in brackets we are going to write a, that, and this is going to give us the same result, that is 5. So next thing we are going to look at is how variables work in Python. So let's say I have a variable a is equal to 7 and I type in another variable that is b is equal to a, and finally I'm also writing a is equal to 3. So as you can see that here is an ambiguity here, that a is equal to 7 and also a is equal to 3. So what happens behind in the compiler is that this a is equal to 7 will be overwritten by this a is equal to 3. That means this is gonna vanish and this is gonna take precedence over a is equal to 7. If I run this code and if I want to find out what will be the value of a, so if I run this code, you can see that print a is giving us the result 3. That means compiler has forgotten about a is equal to 7. And let's say if I want to see the result of print b, this is giving me 7. So next thing we are going to look at is variable naming rules. The first thing is identifiers. So let me explain you what are identifiers. In Python. So in any programming language including Python, identifier is a name which is given to a programming element. Let's say you have a variable, you have a function, or you have a class or a module. All of these can be identified with the help of an identifier. That is, whatever name you will assign to these programming elements, the identifiers is what will help you to assign a name to them. However, there are certain rules that you have to keep in mind while you are writing the name for an identifier. Let's go through some of them. First thing that you need to keep in mind is that Python is a case sensitive language. That means you cannot just simply ignore the fact that you cannot use small letters in place of big letters, or big letters in place of small letters. That are gonna keep an effect to the compiler. Next thing is identifier cannot start with a digit, and also they can start with underscore, but they cannot start with a special character like $sign or ampersand sign or and sign or pipe sign or any other sign apart from an underscore. And next thing is, what are keywords? Keywords are something that have a predefined value in our compiler. Like you must have seen in other programming languages like true or false or scanf or any other keyword. They have certain meaning to the compiler, right? we cannot use these keywords as our identifier in Python. If we use a keyword as an identifier, it will throw an error, and this is like the foremost rule. We cannot use a keyword as an identifier. That means you cannot use the names of a keyword in order to assign a name to your variable or a class or a function. So let's go through some of the keywords that we have in Python, that is false, class, finally, is, return, none, etc. And yeah, so this is what I mentioned before, that Python, since Python is case sensitive, so A and A are obviously going to mean different. I have an example to show you what I mean by this. That is, if I have capital A is equal to 4 and A, since we saw in the previous code in the lines above that small a was equal to 3, if I print the value of small a, it's gonna give me 3, whereas if I print the value of capital A, it's gonna give me 4. So let's go through some of the rules in order to define our variable names. So a is equal to 5. Obviously this is allowed because we are not making any manipulation to the variable name. This is relatively simple as compared to what we are going to see next. So this is allowed. A is equal to 5 is allowed. Whereas as I mentioned, since we can start a variable name with an underscore, this is what I have mentioned here. Underscore a is equal to 5. This is also allowed. Whereas if I use any other special character like @a, or if I use a $sign, a is equal to 5, this is gonna give me a result, and this is what Python is showing me here. And variable names cannot start with a number as well. A is equal to 5, that is not gonna be allowed. So we have 4 data types in Python, that is int, string, float, and bool. In the further videos, we are going to see manipulation on each of these data types, how we can manipulate int in order to get a float, or how we can do some string manipulations in order to get different kind of results on a complete different string. And so let's go through some of the basic data types that we have in Python. First of all, we have is int, that is a is equal to 5. If I print the type of a, that is what type of data type is stored in this value a, it's gonna be int. And in order to see what type of data type my variable is holding, we have a special type of function in Python that is known as type, and I would like you to please take a note of this type function, as in cases if you want to see what data type you have, you can use this function readily. Next thing I have is a string, like I talked about. So if I store a string in a variable name called as b, and if I print the type of b, that is it's gonna give me a string. Next thing, like any other programming languages, any number that has a decimal, it's gonna be stored as a floating point, and it's gonna have a distinction apart from int, that is whole numbers are basically integers, and any like decimal points or floating point numbers, that are going to be stored in a float data type in Python. Finally, Boolean types are nothing but true or false, or yes or no. Next thing that we are going to see is type conversion of one type of variable into another. The 4 type of variables that we saw in Python, that is int, string, float, and bool, we can convert these variables into one another according to our will. So let's see some of the method in order to do that. So let's say I have a variable known as my age, and I am storing the value 26.33. So as you know that this is a floating type variable, and in order to convert this into int, I'll just use a function that is int, and in bracket I'm gonna type my variable, that is my age. So what Python is gonna do is that it's gonna chop off this decimal part of this floating number, and it's gonna give me just the whole number part of it, that is 26. So my age has now been converted from a float into an integer number. So let's see what happens if we add a string to an integer. Obviously this is not gonna add, because Python is treating this 2 as a string and this 6 as an integer, and the concatenation, that is the addition of these two numbers, we know that 2 is a number, but for Python it's considering it as a string, and it's not gonna add these two things together. So we have to convert either this 2 into an integer or into a float in order to add these two numbers together. So that is what I have done here, that is I'm converting these 2, that is this string, into an integer, and finally I'm gonna add it with the 6 written here, and it's gonna give me the 8 result, which is the desired result. So now that we have understood what are variables and identifiers in Python, we are going to look at what are operators. So we have three kind of operators in Python, that is arithmetic operators, comparison operators, and logical operators. So as the name suggests, arithmetic operators help us in doing arithmetic operations like plus, minus, multiply, and divide. Comparison operators, as the name suggests, it helps us to compare two variables. These can be done with the help of greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, or not equal to. And logical operators are nothing but and, or, and not. So let's go through each one of them one by one. So let's say I am initializing a few variables. The value of A is having a value of 15, B is having a value of 8, C is having a value of 15.5, that is a float, and S is a string that is having a value hello stored in it. So let's go through some of the arithmetic operators. If I add A and B, that is 15 plus 8, we are going to simply write A plus B and print the result, that it's going to be 23, and vice versa, B minus A, it's going to give me minus 7. Simple arithmetic operations that we perform by hand, we can do them in Python as well. This is the idea of arithmetic operators. And let's go to division and multiplication. Simply we are going to use the sign of divide in order to get our result of A divided by B, and if we use A into B, it's going to give me the result of A multiplication B. Finally, we can also use exponential. We can also find the value of exponential in Python using 2 stars. So what exactly does this mean is, it's going to give me the result of 2 raised to power 3. So obviously we cannot write raised to the power in Python, so the notation in order to write the raised to power symbol is written by 2 star symbols in Python. Finally, what exactly is floor division? So like we talked about division, that is going to give me the dividend at the result, that is the end result of what is A divided by B. Floor division is going to help me with getting the quotient value of A divided by B. So as we know that A is 15 and B is 8, so once we are going to divide these two numbers together, the quotient that we are going to get is obviously 1. So A divide B. Please don't mistake it for this divide symbol. This is going to be a floor division symbol, which is going to help me get the quotient value of A divided by B. Finally, we have the modulus symbol. This might look a little bit tricky, but this is going to be one of the simplest arithmetic operations that we can have in Python, that is A modulus B. So what is A modulus B? Once we divide 15 by 8, the remainder that we are going to get is 7. So this is what is giving me the modulus symbol. The modulus symbol must help me to give the remainder of a division. This is what I have written here. Finally, let's move on to comparison operators. So let's go through some of the comparison operators that we have in Python. Some of them are equal, not equal, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to, like I talked about. So let's see what happens if I print the result of A equal to B. So what happens in the compiler, what happens in the logic of this code is that Python is comparing whether A is actually equal to B or not, whether this value B is actually equal to the value of A. So we know that 15 is not equal to 8. So that is why the result that we are getting here is false. Next up is A is not equal to B. So the converse, basically this line is the converse of the line written above it. So A is not equal to B. Of course 15 is not equal to 8. That is why we are getting a result of true. Next up, I am checking whether A is a value which is equal to 51. So since we have stored the value of A is equal to 15, now I'm comparing 15 to 51. These are not same numbers, that is why I'm getting the result false. Finally, I am checking whether the values finally I want to check out what is going to be my result if I compare the values of A is equal to B, and I want to find out the data type of that variable. So since A is equal to B, no, A is not equal to B. A is not equal to B, and the result that we are going to get is false. So what is the data type of the false written in bracket? I want you to analyze this, that the result that we are going to get after A is equal to B is going to be false. And what is the type of data type of false? It's bool. That is why the result that we are getting here is bool. Next up is we are going to compare A is greater than B. Of course 15 is greater than 8. That is why we are getting true. And similarly we are getting false over here, and so on. Next up we have is the logical operators. and we have three logical operators in Python, that is and, or, and not. And let's go through each one of them. So 1 is equal to 1 and 2 is equal to true. So what happens in and is I'm gonna get a true if both of my operations are gonna give me true. If either of my operations are giving me false, I'm gonna get the result as false. And what happens in true is that if either of my operations are giving me true, I'm gonna get the result as true. And what happens in not is that obviously it's gonna converse whatever result I am getting from my operation, and the final answer that I will get is the converse of the result of my operations. So 1 is equal to 1. Yes, these two values are true. So the result I will get after this operation will be true. And finally 2 is equal to 2. Yes, this is also true. So true and true is gonna give me true. That is why I'm having true here. Let's go through OR. 1 is equal to 1. Yes, this is a true statement. But 3 is equal to 4. No, this is a false statement. So true or false is gonna give me true, like I talked about. Finally, let's go through the last one. 1 is less than equal to true. Yes, this is true. And 2 is greater than 3. No, this is false. So true or false, this is gonna give me true. So the value that I'm having after the end of this operation, it will be true. And finally, I'm gonna compare true or 4 is equal to 4. So yes, this is also true. So the final output that we will get after doing this operation will be true or true. So finally I'm getting the result as true. So thank you for watching this video, and if you liked it, please please subscribe to my channel and share this video to your friends and family.